Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the PCCS emPower Hour. I'm Chris Marchioni, the founder and executive director at Person-Centered Care Services. Welcome. Today we have some very special guests. We have Diane Buglioli, the founder and former deputy executive director from a very special place, and also the visionary for the Willowbrook Legacy Project. And she's here with her colleague, Eric Goldberg, and they will be talking about the Willowbrook Legacy Project, a collaborative project, and also the upcoming Willowbrook Mile ribbon cutting, which is taking place this Saturday. I'm also here with Mary Jacobson. She is one of the co-chairs of the Outreach Committee of the Staten Island Developmental Disabilities Council. Mary, I know you wanted to say a few words before handing it over to Diane and Eric, our guests today.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm the co-chair of the Outreach Committee on the Staten Island Disability Council. It's a great council to join. We have a lot of different committees that you can join, different kinds of things, from adults to children to advocacy. Everything is there. I'm going to try to put the stuff into the chat, and you can go right onto the website, or you can just Google Staten Island Disability Council and everything will come up. Just try to join. It's great. We meet monthly on the third Friday of every month. And it's usually about an hour and a half. And everybody, comes there, shares a little information, and it's good. So hope to see you guys all there. And like I said, I'll try to put it in the chat, but just go onto the website. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome. And here's Diane.
Now we're going to bring our friends and colleagues in, Diane Buglioli and Eric Goldberg, to talk about the Willowbrook Legacy Project. Hi, guys. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. Diane, you're on mute.
Okay, there I am. Sorry.
Oh, welcome.
Okay.
There you are.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. Eric and I co-chair the Willowbrook Property Committee of the Staten Island Developmental Disabilities Council, which is a committee that started back in 2005. At that time, we were looking at some of the excess properties of the former Willowbrook might be going for purposes other than people with developmental disabilities. And we said, well, we're not on board for that. We want to look and see if there are some things that we can do on that property. So we began looking at it, and we found out two things. Number one, we were going to put some services there where we had gaps in services. And number one, we found out that the money was drying up for new services. And number two, that a lot of the land that was there was wetlands and not buildable. So we started to say, well, what is it that we really want to happen there? And we came to this thought of, we really wanted the property to have an enduring presence of what happened there, mainly so that it wouldn't happen again, that there wouldn't be institutionalization again. And we started to think about it. We did surveys, and we had a lot of input from families and from self-advocates and the different agencies. And we came up with this sort of a walking trail on the former grounds of Willowbrook, which right now takes up the College of Staten Island, the Elizabeth Connolly Resource Center, and the Institute for Basic Research on Forest Hill Road. So we said we want walking trails throughout that area, and that people at each station, there would be like a sitting area and a station that would give them information of many facets about what happened at Willowbrook. Because Willowbrook is ground zero for the disability movement in our country, and it actually had an impact worldwide. So that's where we started to go. Then in 2012, we approached the College of Staten Island and OPWDD and said, let's work on this collaboratively together. And the college opened its arms, as did OPWDD, to say, yes, we're going to become involved in this project. The college really, that was under Tomas Morales, right? And then it became Bill Fritz. And Bill Fritz really took on the legacy of the project, and he talked about it a lot. And not only that, but they opened Disability Studies program, the Lucia Riggio program that Eric will talk to you about. And so since 2012, we've been working with them to September 17th. This is an anniversary year for many things for Willowbrook. It was 75 years ago that Willowbrook was open. It was 50 years ago that the expose happened with Geraldo Rivera and Jane Curtin in the Advance, and 35 years ago since it closed. On September 17th, it closed. And so the opening of the mile, the ribbon cutting for the mile, the stations are in place, is on September 17th, this Saturday. And we're very, very excited on the council, me on a personal level, that this is finally happening. And Eric, why don't you talk to us about two things? Number one, the Melissa Reggio program, explain what that is. And number two, you know very clearly what the mission of the mile is, and you've said it over and over again. So why don't you tell us about those two things?
Which one would you like me to do first?
So, well, why the mission? Why do we do this? What is the purpose of opening this mile? You
yes,
always say
the
it's very
purpose of yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you before. So
It's okay.
something just happened. But anyhow, I'm back now. The mission of this mile, in my estimation, is to make sure we never go back. We lived in history. It was horrible times at Willowbrook. People unfortunately died. People, it was bad. People were not treated as human beings. They were treated more or less, I'm sorry to say, like, don't take this the wrong way, but like animals, or you know. And my presence on the committee is to make sure we never go back. I joined this committee in, I believe, 2016, because I had gotten, Willowbrook had just closed when I was born, or maybe a couple of years after. And I just felt the compassion that, me as a person with a disability who has disabilities and had severe ones when I was little, got all the help I could get. I want to give back to the community, and I want to, and by giving back is doing what I'm doing and making sure we never go backwards, we go forward. Because remember, one thing I always say is you could go backwards. There's always backwards. People can always go. I mean, things can always go backwards. We've seen it throughout the country. So that's my legacy on here.
And Eric, so then in terms of the benefits that you receive and the things that you were able to access in your life, one of those was the Melissa Reggio program. So tell us about that Melissa Reggio program that is at the college.
So thank you, Diane. Yes. So the Melissa Reggio program, and then I also there was another program that took me after Melissa Reggio, which I'll get to in a minute. The Melissa Reggio program originally started, I believe, I would say September of 2008. And me and 3 other students were the original students. And it was geared for college classes, as well as college classes with college students, as well as what's the word I'm looking for? Community inclusion, with the campus, as well as getting to be friends with people in the program itself.
So it was like, Eric, it was like a mentoring program, right, Eric? So that you mentored with college students during this Melissa Reggio program, right?
Right. Not exactly. We took college classes with the college students, but it was non-accredited. But when we didn't have college classes, it was more or less getting socialization with the people in the program, becoming friends, and the college experience, and the professors.
And very proud to say, since I've known you for a while, that then you got your GED.
Right. And that's what I was gonna bring up. And I'm just gonna finish about Melissa Reggio. Since I've been in the Melissa Reggio program, I think that's part of the reason, seeing what others are going through, that I got involved with the Willowbrook committee as well. I also was fortunate that I made a lot of friends there, and still, which I keep in touch with. So it was a great program. I know this is going out to everybody, but if you're looking for a college-bound program, if you're looking for your son or daughter to take college classes, or and learn the college experience and get socialization and become friends with with the people in the program, I suggest that you acquire for that, because it's very, very powerful. Yeah, there is a waiting list though. Now about the GED. So after the Melissa Reggio program, more or less, I had a good, I guess it's called repertoire with the continuing ed department at that time, and they were in 2A, room 201. And I knew one of the directors there because when I was in the Melissa Riggio program, I used to warm up my food there in their microwaves. I'm sorry to say, but anyhow, so I knew one of the directors there, and I said, listen, I said, it's just going to be very difficult for me to get a job. You know, when I was in high school, I was in a program that didn't gear me for regents, and I can't get a job unless I get the GED. So she said, come in, take the assessment test. So in January of 2012, I took the assessment test. My mom was my scribe, thanks to her. We completed it, and I made it to the program. I have to say, Melissa Riggio program was very helpful in that because they gave me a mentor every day I had class, and it was tough. They had a mentor for me. They would do the homework with me, etc. So, that's and that was part of Day Have Without Walls as well. So they were very helpful. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of effort. As I say, English and reading and science and social studies seemed pretty easy to me. But I had such a good, I guess they call it a good professor. I don't know what they call in the continuing ed department, GD, but I had a very good teacher. I started out at the second grade reading level. I was within the semester, I was on an 8th grade reading level. So
that's great, Eric, because that is part of what we see as the commitment of the college to really own the legacy and to progress, because the mile is not just about looking back, right? But saying this is how far we've come, and then this is what we need to protect, because as you said, we're concerned of it sliding back at times, right? Because we know that that's possible. So I want to be able to, and that's one of the things, as I said before, there are 12 stations on this mile, and one of them is called From Isolation to Inclusion. And that's what I was thinking about as you were talking, Eric, is that that station talks about the change from an institution that really locked people away from services to an institution of higher learning, right? To this College of Staten Island that offers people, including people with disabilities, the college experience. And so it opened up, if you will, this property to something it never was before. It never was inclusive, and it never was progressive or educational. But now, because of the location of the college there, and also on that same property, which was the original Willowbrook property, you have the Elizabeth Connolly Resource Center, right? And you have the Institute of Research. So on this property, this college, a renowned research center, and the services of the Elizabeth Connolly Resource Center, which is where the outreach people for the Staten Island Developmental Disabilities the SIDDC is located within the Elizabeth Connolly Resource Center. So the mile has, as I said, 12 stations in it. I don't want to go through every station, but it talks about the many, many different facets of Willowbrook. It talks about the expose. It talks about the consent judgment, which was the judgment that really forced the closing of Willowbrook. It talks about the hepatitis studies that were at Willowbrook that were done really without the consent of families. It talks about the Gouverneur Hospital, in which 200 of the most medically involved and fragile individuals who were living at Willowbrook at the time were transferred to a condemned building in New York City to try and lessen the number of people at Willowbrook. But they placed these individuals into a condemned building. It was a move that is still, when you look back at it, is just a horrible, horrible move. There's a building 19. The number is still on the building, and that building is talked about what institutional life was like. And it honors the people that had to go through those struggles at Willowbrook. At which time there was up to 6,000 people that lived there. This place was built for 2,000. It was it housed 6,000 people at one point. So it was terribly, terribly overcrowded and very, very understaffed. There's the building in front of the library, right, Eric, which is the archives. And
The archives, yes.
yeah, and the archives is located within the library building of the college.
I believe it's in the back of the library, Diane. Back of the library, I think, from what I remember.
Yeah, it's up on the second floor.
And, in the back.
Yeah, and that they have memorabilia there from the institution, but also they have archival material from Betty Connolly and from Eric Vitaliano, of people that really helped get Willowbrook closed and really kind of pioneered for some of the rights for people with disabilities when people were being moved back into the community, and there was some community backlash during those years. There's also a station that's called the Baby Unit, which tells the story of the unit that is now the Elizabeth Connolly Resource Center. But that was a baby unit that was opened in the mid-'60s, and it was just to give give a residential center for actually infants through young children. In those years, when a child was diagnosed with Down syndrome, doctors would readily make the recommendation that child be placed in an institution because they felt the child would not live that long, and that they would have complicating heart conditions and pulmonary conditions, and which ended up not being true. As research went on and such, and better medical care was given, certainly people, most people know that I'm from a very special place. That's where I worked until I recently retired. And, we have people that have Down syndrome that are 80 some odd years old, and pretty healthy. There's a station at IBR that talks about the Institute of Basic Research and the wonderful work that they've done. And they have no connection whatsoever to the hepatitis studies. Those were long before the IBR opened, and IBR is really a renowned research facility that uses all of the proper informed consent, right, Eric? And
right.
One of the other buildings is Building 29, which was the Staten Island building, where people were moved into that building because they were from Staten Island, which was not such a good idea in my estimate, because they were putting people together just because they were from the same place, but their needs were very different. And so it made it more difficult to really tailor their, services to meet their needs all in one building. But nonetheless, that building, Building 29, we want it to be preserved. It's still in the same state it was when it closed in 1987. We really want that to be really a center for excellence. We want to eventually house the archives. We want it to be a resource area, with the progressive moves that have been made in the field of developmental disability. So I think that's our next battle, Eric, is trying to get Building 29 preserved, right?
Yes.
And go ahead, Eric.
And I just wanted to add one thing before we jump to another topic. I forgot to mention previously when I spoke that I think the reason it also hits home for me is my brother. I don't share this with many people, but my brother was born in 1987 with MR at the time, and microcephalic. And my mom had taken him to a doctor, and they said, put him in Willowbrook. And this is right before Willowbrook closed. No, he'll be nothing. Put him away. And what's interestingly about it is my parents were doing that, in the process of doing that. And then there was a death in the family, and my mom realized and said, I can't place him. And it was the best thing she ever did, because now he signs, he gestures. So I just wanted to put that in there. I think that's another reason why I got involved. So stuff like that, like for my brother, doesn't happen again, as I mentioned before. So just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, Eric. That's the type of commitment. That the families that actually closed Willowbrook, when they realized what was happening to their sons and daughters and brothers and sisters, they took, just like you, they took personal action. And that's really what the mile is about, right? Is that you not only walk through the mile and you remember, But the thing is to take action on what you see. In other words, think about it, ponder about it, and say, this is not the way people should ever live again. And take all the steps that people can make in our everyday lives. We vote. We vote. We have responsibilities, and taking personal action is easier than you think, because personal action means that when I talk to someone and they're talking to me and they're saying something, and I say to them, no, that's not true. I work with people that have special needs my entire career. I've watched them progress. I've watched them become wonderful people with lives worthy lives. And I admire them. And people need to hear that. And that's a personal action that I hope everyone who walks that mile, that's the action that they take. You can't just walk the mile, and you can't, you took personal action, Eric, by the things that you do, right? It isn't enough to be an advocate. You must be an activist. You must take that advocacy. It's one thing to say, yeah, I support that. But you have to walk it. You have to do it. And that's what the mile is about. The mile is spurring people on to action. And that's what I hope to achieve. And after these 17 years, I mean, I'm as passionate about it as when I first walked into the building, and this is a new audience to me. So I'll just share with you that, I started in the field working at Willowbrook. I was a recreation worker. My life was meant to be a singer-songwriter. That's what I wanted to do. And I needed a job. So I went, and I was pretty well known on the island as an athlete. So when I applied for this job at Willowbrook, I had never really heard of it before. I got the job. They gave me a key. They told me to go to this building 26. I went to the building. I opened a big steel door with the first key. And then I went, and the same key opened another steel door. And then I went all the way down a hallway to a third steel door. And I was 19 at the time. And I thought to myself, what have I gotten myself into? Who is locked behind 3 steel doors? And I said, well, I was 19. I said, well, I'm here. I turned the key. I opened the door. And behind that door were 40 toddlers, little kids. Some came up to me, pulled my pants, asked me my name. Others were sitting at tables, really not doing much. Some were laying on the floor. Some were just not reacting to my presence at all. But the one thing that was very clear to me that day, as it is today, is that they were all children. And why in God's name were they locked behind 3 steel doors? That never left me. I get a feeling in my stomach now when I tell the story, right? So my job, as I saw my personal action, was I wanted to open that door. I wanted other people to get that same tinge in their stomach to make them say, no, never again should this happen. Never again should this happen. So, I worked at Willowbrook from 1969 to 1980. And then in 1980, I opened a very special place with Genevieve Benoit and Susan Montella. Genevieve was our executive director. And it worked there until 2021. And now I'm on the board of directors there. But, a very special place. When we opened it, we took around 40 people that I had worked with, came into a very special place. And I know them today. I still, some of the people that are in our programs, they're class members. And I've known some of them since they were little girls and since they were young men. So, and I know the value of their lives in this society, and am sad that they had to struggle. But I feel the commitment, and I hope we get more commitments on Saturday when people sit there and walk through this, that people will get this and that they understand it's a social justice issue and that they push this forward. That's a soapbox, isn't it? That's a pretty big soapbox, Chris. I just go, I'm sorry.
No,
Like,
I love every time, I've heard you tell that story a number of times, and I feel it in my gut, when you tell that story as well. And it's emotional, but it fires me up. And, I too, have been working, I guess, on the same things that you've been working towards is, for social justice and to value people, with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And it's a journey. And I think, I wanted to hear more about what's going to happen on Saturday. Like, I know you talked a little bit about it, but what can we expect Saturday morning?
Okay, the program starts at 11 o'clock, and the program will start in 1P, which is the Student Arts Center, right? So people will gather there in the main auditorium because we're expecting at least 300 people. Some people did not get into the registration. I don't think they'll turn anybody away that day. But if we're talking about people coming in smaller numbers, not a busload coming, because we have light refreshments and everything, and there's just so much space. But some people who just didn't make the registration, there are a couple of people here and there. I don't think they'll turn anybody away that day. But at 11 o'clock, there'll be a program. There'll be people speaking from the three main stakeholders. So expected that day will be, of course, the interim president of the college. The commissioner of OPWD will be speaking, and Diane Perugia. Then there'll be a representative for President Fritz, who really spearheaded a lot of the changes that happened on the college. And I think he's not able to be there, but there'll be somebody speaking in his behalf. Then I believe it is, oh God, help me. I said Diane Perugia, right? After him comes, Geraldo Rivera will be speaking. And then there's one other person. I think they're leaving an opening in case the governor comes. There's a spot there in case she does come. And then I speak. After that, we're figuring that's around 45 minutes long, that program. Then we go right out to one of the stations that's right by there, and it happens to be the Halloran Hospital Station. And that's right off of 1P, so it's not even 50 feet away. By the way, everything is accessible. Just anyone who's mobilizes by a chair, everything is accessible. And then we go and do an actual ribbon cutting. With Bernard will be there. He'll be standing right next to me. We'll have the scissor. We'll cut the ribbon. Eric Adams will be there. The mayor will be there. Michael Cusick, who gave the seed money. Assemblyman Michael Cusick, he's in his last term. He gave the seed money for the Willowbrook Mile. He'll be there. You always expect a couple of politicos to show up. I'm not sure who's coming, but I know Michael is going to be there, and Eric Adams, and Brian Leyline will be there from the Advance, because they really broke the story. Was the Advance really in 1971 through Jane Curtin? So from that, right, that's probably going to be around half an hour, I would think. And then we go back inside 1P. There'll be light refreshments there, some social chat. I know that the DDPC, the Planning Council, is doing some interviewing of some people that might be there, some class members, and some of the people that are going to be there. I mean, these people that you got to meet there, Chris. I mean, the parents groups, the parent is there. Willow Mae Goodman is there. She's a pistol. She's 90 years old, and she talk us all under the table. She's a powerful woman. The IAC will be represented there. Mike Mascara is going to be there. Oh, Arthur Webb. Arthur Webb is another person. Now Arthur Webb was commissioner back in the years when the big deinstitutionalization happened. So Arthur Webb was speaking in the main area. That was the other speaker. Also be there will be Dr. Wilkins. That's his key. That opened it up to Geraldo Rivera. Bill Bronson, he's the other powerhouse. He's fiery. He's a powerhouse. He has a book out right now that talks about cutting, to dismantle the warehousing system, the institutionalization system, taking it out of our thing. He's talking about nursing homes, everything. He's fiery. He's got a wonderful platform of how to do that. He has a book out, and for anyone who's available, Chris, I was going to ask you if you're free at 2:00 on Tuesday. He's going to be at the archives, and he's somebody I want to meet. You're fiery yourself. This is a fiery guy, and he's around 90 now, or in his late 80s. He is a powerhouse, and I think his way of looking at this is very close to your way of looking at things as well. And if you're around there, I'll put you on the registry there, because you should hear this guy. You're following in his footsteps a bit. He's saying some of the same thing you're saying, and he wrote a book about it. And he's I think he's really much on a mark on everything.
Yeah.
So there'll be time for you to meet him, and if you come over by me, I'll get you introduced to him as well. But so there'll be that time there, and then around 12:30, 1 o'clock, they'll start with guided tours through the mile. And there's 3 different types of tours. There's the long tour, takes in all 12. There's a very short tour, just around the center, and there's a medium tour. So depending upon the amount of time people have, they'll set up. Some people have already signed up for the tours that they want. So then when that ends, that will end around 3 o'clock. And so people can freestyle it as well and just walk through. Probably on that day, I'll just talk to people, and you know me, I'll be walking around talking to everybody, and I'll probably walk the mile, on my own, sometime in the future. I've sort of done it already, but that day I'll probably stay closer to home to just kind of talk to people. And going on at the same time, and I believe it's happening in 1P. I believe there's a lecture hall in there, and I believe that it's where it's set up. There's the photography of Eric Arts. Now, Eric Arts was the photographer for the Advance, who did all of the pictures for Inside the Cages. So we have his work that Jane Curtin accessed for us, and that will be up until October. And in the archives, there'll be a setup of memorabilia and some very interesting documentation that they have, and that will be in the archives, and in the downstairs rotunda is set up. So there's a lot of things to walk around and see that day. And I'll tell you, one of the things I just brought it over yesterday. I was going through some of my stuff that I gathered along the way and held, and what I found, Chris and Eric, was I found a bar of soap, and on the bar of soap, right? It looks horrible. It probably was brown soap to begin with, but it's sort of, it's 40 years old. It's 50 years old. You know what it says on it? New York State.
Wow.
And you flip it over, it says NY on it. And I thought to myself, I never remembered holding the bar of soap or seeing it, but imagine that you even have to get washed with a bar of soap that says New York State. There was just nothing. There was nothing normalized about this experience, right? So I think James Kaiser, who's the archivist there, I think he's putting that out there, because we looked at it and we all went, "Oh my God!" Even the soap, even the soap was institutional, right?
That's unbelievable. Even the soap.
Even the soap.
Talking about Bill Bronson, I have his book, and I was reading part of it, and you're right. I agree with a lot of what he's saying. We need to create something completely new.
No hybrids.
Everything that we have right now.
No hybrids. He's very clear on it. And the other thing, Chris, and I've said this, we've been in the same room when I've said this. People say, well, it's because the state doesn't have a plan. It's not, they're not thinking enough in advance. And it was Bill who made me think about it years ago. There is a plan. The plan is to make accessibility hard. The plan is to continue the system. The plan is there, so when I read his stuff and I think about you, I said, this is Chris's path. And if you're around at 2 o'clock, come and meet him. I think he's a good contact for you. And he would, I think it would make him very happy to know there's a youngster out there that is traveling that path.
You know what? I met him at the Harvest Cafe with you a number of years ago. You hosted him. It was obviously about the Willowbrook Mile, and he was there.
I think it was Mike Wilkins.
Oh,
It
that
was
was
Mike
Mike?
Wilkins. That was Mike Wilkins.
Oh, okay. I'm getting them confused. Okay, so I met Mike. I didn't meet Bill then.
That's right. I want you to meet Bill. You met Mike Wilkins. That was Mike, and Bernard were there. Tim Casey was there. I remember that day. And but that was Mike. Mike is he's the other doctor, the key, and the cohort. I mean, they work together on this whole project. But Bill, you should meet Bill. And if you read the book, that's Bill's book.
Yeah, I'll definitely make time to be there on Tuesday, and well, I'll be there Saturday.
Right.
That's for sure. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
It's going to be great. I remember many years ago when I first
Yes.
joined, when I came to work on Staten Island. When I first started doing the work that we do, it was a little over 30 years ago, and I really worked in Brooklyn mostly. And I lived in Staten Island, and I couldn't wait. When I got a job in Staten Island, I was so happy. I was like, I don't have to drive over the bridge anymore. And my first job on the island was working with CP State, where our colleague Jacqueline Romolo, worked. And the office was right around the corner from my parents' home, and the office is located on the Willowbrook campus. And I told my mom, I said, I can't believe that you didn't tell me growing up years ago, because we lived there for 50 years, in that house. We were right around the corner. And my mom never told me that, that this is the Willowbrook State School. This is where it was. I really didn't find out about this until I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
All the history there and what happened there. And you mentioned Halloran Hospital. And I know some of our viewers, well, probably many of our viewers don't even know about Halloran Hospital, but it's so amazing to me how the same place, the same space can treat groups of people so differently. Like the patients at Halloran Hospital. I remember Hal Kennedy describing how they had the nice robes, matching slippers, matching pajamas, even matchbook boxes with the
Yes.
colors of Halloran Hospital. And what did the Willowbrook residents have? The victims and survivors, they had bars of soap stamped with New York State on it.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting how groups of people are treated, and at the same space, same place. And now it's a renowned, college, a center for learning. Very amazing, how society views people. And I'm hoping with things like this, with the Willowbrook Mile, the Legacy Project, that our society can look at people and view people differently and value them for who they are, as human beings.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's I think is the value of the mile, and the importance of the mile is exactly what you're saying. And I've heard, there's the Willowbrook committee. That's the committee of the council. That's the committee that Eric and I co-chair. Then there's the Willowbrook Legacy project, and that committee is coordinated by Professor Catherine Lavender and Nora Santiago at the college. And Laura Kennedy, Eric, and I sit on that collaborative committee, and we sit with college members. And then we through Rob Wallace, who's one of the legal reps of the college, we communicate with OPWD through that. We don't have a rep who's on it with us every week, but we've met probably in the last 3 years. We've met every Wednesday for 2 hours working on the wording of this and making sure that everything is accessible and readable. And it's been a really, I never could have imagined it would be what it's turned out to be. And I was really heartened. We had a meeting yesterday, and one of the people from the committee said she was out walking through the college, and she was going from one building to the other, and she came across a student reading the sign, standing there reading the sign. And she went by the next station. There were two students sitting at a bench, and they were looking at the sign. They were having something to drink and sitting there. And the person said, she asked them, she said, "Why are you sitting there?" They said, "Well, we're having lunch, but we never knew that this was a hospital before." And that's exactly the fact that it's there. It's like that Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. The hope is that build it and then people will start to say, "Wow, I didn't know that." And just like you said, Chris, so many people who grew up in Staten Island, they never heard of Willowbrook. And if you ask a kid today, they'll tell you it's a mall in New Jersey. Right? And that's we need to change that, because if we don't remember the past, there's that old saying, you're doomed to repeat it. And we cannot tolerate that. We cannot let that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I remember as a kid, I was probably around 7 years old when Geraldo broke the story, and I remember watching it on Eyewitness News. I just didn't know that that place was right around the corner from my house.
Right. That's right.
That's and when I went to work, it was a requirement to watch that video. Part of your in-service was to watch that video. And of course I remember it, growing up, and then of course I knew, wow, that was right around the corner from my house, and then I ended up working there. Agencies have some programs there, or offices there. It's quite interesting. And you mentioned Rob Wallace. He's actually a very, very close family friend. My dad and his dad were on the NYPD together, and we're friends for over 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's a wonderful guy.
Wow.
I've gotten to know Chris over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's a wonderful man, Rob Wallace.
Yeah.
He's
my dad actually went out to dinner with him and his brother, and a couple of their kids, the grown sons now. I can't even say kids; they're grown men too. But my father stayed close with the family. Rob's dad passed away a few years ago, and then they lost their mom a couple of years ago. But very close family and good people and stuff. And I'm sure he'll be there Saturday, so I'll get to see him.
You will. He will be there Saturday for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the project committee. Good guy. Good guy. And unfortunately, David Good won't be there. Professor David Good, he won't be there this Saturday. But he's another guy who, all the years he worked at the college,
Mm-hmm.
he kept pounding away at the Willowbrook message,
Mm-hmm.
pounding away, and through certain of the the presidents who led the college, they really didn't. They didn't feel it important to highlight that legacy, and then when Thomas Morales came in, he started it, and then Bill Fritz really took it full way. But David was there for years and years, just pounding away at this. He's. I'm sorry that he won't be there, but I know that before the end of the year, I think that there'll probably be another event. I'm expected to be run by Paul Dolan, who ran the 1-to-1 years and years ago that John Lennon was at. We had this concert with John Lennon and Roberta Flack and Sha-Na Na with a three headliner. Sha-Na-Na. And I was working at Willowbrook at the time, so I got to take your head's going to spin. I took 18 girls, and somebody else took 18 boys, and we had 3 staff total for 36 people. Do you believe that, Chris? At the Garden. We were at the Garden. All I did was count heads all day. I was so nervous. But there we were. We had great seats. Geraldo came up by us. But there we were with Yoko and John Lennon. He sang Imagine. It was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal night. So Paul Dolan, who arranged that through 1-to-1, we're probably going to do something in December that will be like, really a celebration of this past year. And I'm sure it'll be an open event. And I think that's how the year will probably end. We're waiting to see how it works out. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So we're coming up to the end of time. Did you want to add anything, Eric? Did you want to add anything to this wonderful dialogue we're having?
Yes, I just wanted to add one thing. I think, I think that, how do I say this? I think that, like Diane mentioned, I think we really have to, well, first, we really have to thank Diane because she spearheaded this. She got this started. I don't mean to get off topic here, but she got this started. She was involved way before I was. And I think she's the one who made tomorrow possible, as well as a few other people, being Laura Kennedy and David Good. I think those are the influential people that really spearheaded this. And just what I wanted to add was, please come Saturday to the Willowbrook Mile opening. Please, because, everybody can learn. Even if you think you know everything about Willowbrook, there's stuff you can learn, and stuff you need to learn is to become an activist and make sure we don't go back, we go forward, because like Diane said, history repeats itself. You've seen it all over the place, you know, with like I said, with what's going on in the country now. You know, history can repeat itself. So what we need, 1 or 2 activists is great, but we need like 30 or 40 activists to make sure this doesn't happen again. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Eric, for that. But I think this is a project that I'm old enough now to know that you truly don't do things alone. You're always shoulder to shoulder with somebody. So this is a great collaborative achievement. And you're right, Eric. We need many more activists. And if you can't be there on September 17th for whatever reason, go out there and walk the mile. It's there. It's available to you. Go through the council. We'll set up a tour if we need to. But please go see the mile. It's important, and you're important to us to keep it moving forward. Well said, Eric. Well said. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for this opportunity, Chris.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Thank you
so
for
much.
joining. You know, I always wanted my own talk show. I feel like Bert Griffin here. You know, if we ever go back in person, I'm going to have like the Johnny Carson thing, the desk, the mic, the desk.
Well, if you do that, I want there to be a green room. I want there to be some beverages or something on the side.
Absolutely.
And some craft foods over there. That's right.
Absolutely.
If you want to hear a funny story before we end,
yes.
So my brother, when he was little, my father, you know, we were born in the 80s, so Johnny Carson was still on till I believe 1992. So my brother used to love Johnny Carson. He saw him once, he giggled and everything. So every night he would cry at like 11 o'clock to go see Johnny Carson, and then my dad would take him and they watched together. It was just amazing.
Yep. I miss those days.
Yeah.
I sure do. Well, thank you, Diane Buglioli, Eric Goldberg.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Our pleasure.
Mary
as long
Jacobson,
as we can get the word out there, that's the important thing.
Yes, and hopefully we'll see a lot of folks on Saturday, September 17th, 11 o'clock at the College of Staten Island, Building 1P, to pay tribute to the Willowbrook legacy, the Willowbrook Mile. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.